All right, so thank you. It's great to be here. The slides are up, that's always a good start. So, just waiting for second monitor to also to liven up. But here we go. So this session assumes that you don't have a dedicated voice of customer team, but you do want to make sure, as Kevin mentioned, that your engineers are making good decisions about what they decide to do, what they want to prioritize. But just a quick test. Can everyone at least raise one hand? Okay, so the arms are working. That's good. We'll be testing these out. So, first show of hands. Does anyone have a dedicated voice of customer team? Yeah. Oh, there's one hand. Okay, that is pretty much the state of where things are today. But hopefully, I'll be able to show you some things that you can do to kind of improve that situation, whether or not you can build a dedicated team or not. So, a little bit about me. I've been in open source-based solutions, technologies, and companies for about 30 or so years at this point. I've mainly kind of built large global distributed teams and organizations. I joined Grafana Labs about 7 years ago now, when there were less than 50 people in the whole company. We're now about 1,700 people, so it's been an amazing journey so far. And about 2.5 years ago, I was offered the opportunity to go and spin up a brand new function within the organization, this voice of customer. And I also love GIFs. So if you ever exchange a message with me on LinkedIn, expect one or more GIFs from me. So another show of hands. Who has used Grafana? Yes, excellent. Great to see. So a little bit about Grafana Labs. So 25 or so million users of Grafana out there, 2 million or so instances of Grafana out in the wild. We also heavily invested in open source and open source projects, so Grafana, Mimir, Loki, and Tempo, amongst many others. And also we have a SaaS platform, a SaaS observability platform. So if you're interested in that side of things, please do reach out. So, another show of hands. Who has ever, and let's see how honest you all are, who's ever built something that wasn't as successful as you expected? Oh, yes, here we go. Great to see. Okay, so sometimes this is slow adoption, or it didn't meet goals or targets, or people start to get engaged but then drop off and you don't know why. Some rough industry stats here. These are not new stats. These have been around for a long time. Studies keep coming out and basically keep proving them roughly true. The numbers vary a little bit, sometimes as low as, point in the right direction, sometimes as low as 20% of features are regularly used in products, sometimes as high as 40%, even 40% sounds really rather disturbing to me. Which means the corresponding percentage are features that are rarely or sometimes almost never used. But 100% of these features required engineering time and effort to build, to support ongoing, require documentation, even require AI tokens to make sure that they're constructed. So, in this brave, brand new world, what we're seeing is that the more senior you are as an engineer, or the greater your career aspirations are, the more that you're expected not just to craft a beautiful solution to a problem, but you're expected to deliver real impact, real outcomes. You need to be able to measure the impact of the work that you do, not just that you made that algorithm run faster, but what is the impact that that's going to have to your customers? We're also seeing, great segue from the previous talk, we're definitely seeing this blending of roles. Software engineers are no longer the only people building software. We're seeing, the example previously, QA engineers, we're seeing designers, we're seeing product managers, we're seeing field teams like professional services and solution architects also contributing fixes and improvements and enhancements to products. And of course, no talk here in this year in tech would be complete without AI. The impact is obvious. There's a lot more speed expected from folks. There's some fear, uncertainty, and doubt around, jobs and are they safe. My personal perspective is this is more of a situation where we can do more, we can go faster. There are obviously some caveats. We've had some great talks on that so far today. So what you will find when you're looking for this, what is voice of customer type data, you probably have some of this data already within your organizations, but it's probably in silos and it's probably not being particularly well utilized. So you can think of this data as like structured data is things that are captured by maybe a customer success team as formal feature requests. Maybe conversations that product managers have and again, formalize these things. Like semi-structured is support tickets that come through to your support team that the team triages and then figures out, no, this isn't a bug, this is actually something that customers would like your product to do. And again, this could be sort of discussions that come in with your sales team. So you maybe have call transcripts or things like that, support tickets, as I mentioned, notes in a CRM system. And then you've got a huge volume of unstructured data. Think of this as being largely public data. So this could be, social media, people commenting on Reddit, or I still can't bear to call it X, so Twitter, and even public GitHub and things like that. So in my case, we built a dedicated VOC team because we really wanted to focus on this as a company. But you don't need to necessarily do that. You can just focus on what's the customer voice within your particular product area, your particular specialization. Like you should be able to get hold of at least some of this data by just asking the right people and asking the right questions. So first off is just get started. We started off with making sure we had a really good foundation to capture that structural data because a lot of things then hang off and integrate with that. Then kind of engagement and automation. As soon as you start scaling this thing, you're going to be inundated. So think about a lot of automation, but also get people on board. Again, the fundamentals of change management aren't drastically affected by the oncoming onslaught of AI. In fact, some would say because change is happening so rapidly, thinking about change management is even more important. Going wider, so increasing the scope. You start off often with some structured data, start augmenting it with other data sources. The richer of a picture you can create, the better stories you can tell, the better insight you can get. Then you can start to go deeper. This is where you absolutely will be using a lot of AI tooling for analysis, for trending. There becomes too much data for you to do it manually. And then, you want to go faster. Largely, in our case, this involves removing ourselves from within the loop. We want to make this as much of a self-serve platform as possible. So we also wanted to have a consistent way of thinking about how do you prioritize a particular insight or particular bit of feedback. Now, these 5 things are just examples of what we used. Your perspective and the weightings that you might put on these things might be very different for your organization. So this is something for you to think about. For us, for example, revenue, actually sort of important, but not as important as you might think. What we really care about is how many organizations are actually caring about this. Like we're a SaaS company, so we know that this kind of feedback is still very much the tip of the iceberg. For every one person that, talks to their account team or, raises a support ticket because they're frustrated about something, there are tens, hundreds, thousands of people who won't necessarily do that. Our tech stack uses all of these things and probably a couple more that I didn't get on here. We have this kind of focus of meeting our users where they are or customers where they are. So, with a support team, you want to really tightly couple this up to Zendesk. Make sure they don't even need to leave the tools that they're using and comfortable with. For your field teams, we're heavy users of Slack. You see people having discussions on Slack in a thread about a particular topic. All you need to do is just hit a single emoji reaction in that thread. Our fully automated system goes up, slurps all that knowledge, creates a feature request, analyzes it, looks for duplicates, assigns it, notifies the PMs, all this kind of good stuff. We use Gong for transcripts, and lots and lots of AI, because it's just essential at this kind of scale. One thing that we found really effective was getting a lot of this information to something like BigQuery was a game changer for us in terms of the analysis. That made this analysis at scale much, much easier. Few things that we learned along the way, like the first and foremost one is your customers want to engage with you on these kind of topics. I don't know if anyone's ever had the experience of providing feedback to an organization and just feeling like you were screaming into the void. Yeah? So no one likes that. Everyone likes to know that their feedback's been heard. Even if you're not going to actually implement it, at least they know that you've heard it, it's on a backlog, you're interested in it, you'll reach out to them when the time comes, if the time comes. Some of the less obvious things, there's actually not a lot of public information about this kind of stuff out there. Like, we actually produced a couple of blogs, one last year, one this year, about our VOC program, what it does, how it operates, and the impact it's had for us. If you're interested in this, I'd strongly recommend taking a look. Something else, there is no perfect VOC-type system. You're better off focusing on a series of best-of-breed type tools that have really good APIs that you can integrate together and wire together in a way that makes sense for you. And the final thing for us is that it was a lot of fun to build all this and get this and find these insights. And people get really interested and excited when you show them some of the trends and some of the patterns of what's going on with folks trying to use their product. But sometimes you're going to say no, and that's okay. You need to be okay with turning down requests and saying, that's a great idea, but it's not what we're going to do at least right now. So, you as an individual, as an engineer, you are a subject matter expert in your particular sphere. You probably have a good idea on what's a good thing to do or what is definitely not a good thing to do. So listen to that, lean into that. But also your team, your department, your product, your company will have a strategy and a vision. And, that should influence, what you decide to prioritize, obviously. But also, the customer's perspective is interesting and is useful. They will often have a different perspective. They will come from a different angle. Maybe they are no longer or aren't in a position where they have that huge depth of technical expertise that you do. Maybe your product suite is really kind of crossing the chasm. You're looking at that late majority, and you're more of an organization that's got lots of super smart, super intelligent people, but you're trying to break into a market that no longer maybe as closely resembles the folks that you have building the products. And obviously, where these things join together, that's where the magic happens. But like as an example of sort of some things that you're going to want to go your own way, about 2.5 years ago, we started embedding a graph database fully within our entire Grafana cloud platform. This was not something that customers were clamoring for. It's something that connected all of our different sources, all of our different platforms. But you know what really, really likes graph databases? LLMs. AI gets a huge amount of context and acceleration and information from having a graph database that connects together all of your tools. So that's just one really simple example. So we're all going to be moving faster. There's no denying that. Let's just make sure that we're all heading in the right direction, heading in a direction that's actually supported by evidence and that makes sense and that's going to make an impact. So I'll step out of the way of this QR code. This is just a QR code to my LinkedIn profile, I promise. No malicious Skynet Terminator things are going to dive into your phone by scanning this. But I'm also exploring starting an external community of people that are interested in VOC-type topics. So if you are, please do reach out. I'd love to chat about this kind of stuff. I started building this presentation, realized I could probably spend at least an hour or more talking about it, so I can happily share the unedited, uncut down version of this. One final thing is, like, there's a lot of talk about cognitive load and some of the challenges that people are finding. Just to share something we see within Grafana Labs is we've heavily leaned into AI. We have done for several years now. And what we've noticed, especially as the way the tools have advanced, multiple agents, people running multiple different contexts at the same time, you know, the things that all the context switching, the cognitive load, this puts a huge amount of pressure on developers, and burnout is a very real risk. So just exercise some fundamental self-care. Those breaks that you used to have because you were going to read some documentation or do something else, those are taken away because you're just spinning up more agents. Well, it's on you to make some self-care. So take some time for yourselves. And with that, thank you very much.